And we're going to do some examples here with properties of exponents. So for our first one here, we have 12 raised to the 0. Well, we know that anything raised to the 0 power is going to be 1. Don't confuse that with anything times 0 is 0. Anything raised to the 0 power is 1. So you got to remember that. Now at any time, feel free to pause this video and try the examples on your own, then press play to see me explain them. With number 2 here, we have 7 raised to the negative second power. Well, that will be rewritten as 7 raised to the 1 over 7 raised to the second. So we have a positive 2 now since we moved that to the denominator. And I can evaluate 7 squared, which is 49. So I get 1 over 49. Lastly, we have 3 over 4 raised to the third power. Seen before back in Algebra 1, what we can do is we can distribute that exponent to both parts. So I'm going to have 3 cubed over 4 cubed. Well, 3 cubed is 3 times 3, which is 9, times 3 is 27, and feel free to plug these in your calculator if you need to. And 4 to the third power. 4 times 4 is 16, times 4 gives me 64. And there's my answer. These next few problems, we want you to be able to do them by hand. There will be non-calculator portions where you have to do these by hand. And you can also double check them with your calculator while you're learning to make sure you're doing it right. Well, 125 raised to the 1/3 can be written in radical form as the cube root of 125 raised to the first. Well, I know 125 raised to the first is just 125. The cube root of 125, I got to think, what times what times what gives me 125? Well, 5 times 5 gives me 25, times 5 gives me 125, so the cube root of 125 is 5. So what's happening here is this 3 in the denominator, that's taking the cube root of 125. And then the numerators are exponents, so 5 raised to the first is just 5. Let's look at number 2 here. If I were to take the cube root of 8, that's 2, because 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8. And then I were to square that, so then I use this one here to square it, that gives me 4. Now with number 3 here, if I take the cube root of 27, that gives me 3. And then of course I have to raise that to the 4th power. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. Let's try one more example. Let's say I have 36 raised to the 3/2. If I have that, remember I got to take the square root of 36, so that's going to give me 6, and then I'm going to raise that to the 3rd power. Well, 6 times 6 is 36, times 6 is 216. And there's my answer. So work with the denominator first to make the number smaller, and then you can raise that number by the numerator to get our final answer.